Hello and welcome back to Motivation Mondays on a Peculiar Project. I'm Fritz. Thanks for coming back and thanks for joining me if this is your first time here. Last week we talked about procrastination and some of the reasons we may procrastinate. So if you didn't watch that video, go ahead and watch it now and you can come back to this one or watch them in reverse order. Doesn't really matter. Um, This week, I want to give you some tips for overcoming procrastination. The most important thing you need to understand is that procrastination is a habit, and habits don't just end by sheer willpower overnight. Very often, when we are trying to stop a bad habit, it takes a lot of effort and several attempts at least. So, in this comes from research in behavioral science and in particular cessation of drug use and behavioral science. So the research really shows that when we want to quit a habit, it takes often several tries depending on how addicted we are or how entrenched that habit is. So I want you to understand that this is not an overnight thing, that you won't probably just decide I'm never procrastinating again and that will actually happen, and that's okay. So I want to begin. The first tip is I'm cheating here. My first tip is the bonus tip because this is how I ended the previous video. And that is that mindfulness really is your strongest ally here. The best thing you can do to overcome procrastination is develop your ability to observe yourself and see what you are doing when you procrastinate. Observe what you say to yourself, like we talked about last video. Are you making excuses? Are you too tired? Are you feeling not ready? Are you finding other priorities? What kind of things do you do when you're procrastinating? Do you prioritize a different task? Do you pick up your phone? Do you dissociate? Uh, you figure that out and observe yourself, and that will give you clues into how to stop. If your phone is part of the problem, which it probably is, it is for many, many people, then figuring out when you need to focus on a task that you have to put your phone out of reach. It can be nearby, so if an emergency call comes through, you'll hear that. But out of reach means you have to make an extra decision to go get that phone and then play a game or scroll or whatever. And just putting that little bit of barrier can give you the opportunity to say no, back to the task at hand. So I guess that's kind of a bonus extra tip there of phone specific tip, but to observe your behaviors will give you insight into what other ways you can stop yourself. Um, Another thing related to this being a habit is practice saying yes to whatever it is that you're procrastinating instead of making those excuses. Before you make those excuses, just start doing it. Don't overthink things. You want to practice just jumping right in. So that is tip number 1. Practice starting. Just get started on the project. Even if it feels really awkward or really difficult or like you're going to make mistakes, just start. Take the first step. And in relation to writing, sometimes the first step is to start typing. This is really awkward. I don't know what this scene is. This is the character I want to write about. I hope that he does this. And eventually, those words will turn into the real words that you mean to have on the page and you delete the bullshit. But getting started is the first point, the first step. So saying yes to just doing it. And practicing that, really practicing that, and noticing as soon as you start to procrastinate, you stop yourself and start whatever it is you're putting off. It really will get easier. You'll get used to it. but you really have to force yourself in the beginning. So practicing saying yes. Tip number 2 is practice saying no. And I'll explain why. If you find yourself in a situation where either you have overcommitted or you've committed to something you don't want to do, why did you do that? A lot of us need to learn that it's okay to say no or to set boundaries. There are even subtle ways that this can be done at work, depending on your job. I know in an office setting, very often, if you succeed at a project, they'll give you more. Or even if you haven't, they're just always trying to dump more and more and more on you. And sometimes it's beneficial. You can't just straight up say no, but sometimes it's beneficial to say, okay, I need help prioritizing. And that's kind of code for help me figure out, give me permission to say no to some of this. If you have a service job or an hourly job where it's very task oriented, there might be other strategies. But figuring out, especially if it's a social task, figuring out why you committed and if you shouldn't have, and learning to say no to some things. You can do it in a nice way. A nice way to say, no, I don't want to. Instead, you would say, I don't think I can commit to that. Or, I can't commit to that right now. Don't over justify because then you'll start negotiating and that's not what you want. But learning to say no when people ask you to do things you really can't or don't want to do, or even things that just give you anxiety and you're going to procrastinate on, learn to just say no instead. So, tip number 1 was say yes, tip number 2 is say no. If you are procrastinating because you're a perfectionist, because you think you can't do a good enough job, you don't feel ready, or you're afraid to make mistakes or to fail, the biggest tip I can give you is that it is okay to do C-level work. And what I mean by that is you don't have to get an A on every assignment. In adulthood, you're not getting graded. Done is the grade. Get it done, get it out of here. If it's really giving you anxiety or freaking you out or you really don't want to do a C-level work and get it out of here. Not everything has to be perfect. Most things are not. Most people aren't looking for perfection. And if someone asks you for a favor and then says you didn't do it well enough, well, then never agree to do them a favor again. And if you are at work, I hate to break it to you, but you're never going to get treated like an A student, especially in an office setting when you have to do your self evals at the end of the year and then grade yourself on a scale of 1 to 3 or 1 to 5. You're never going to get the 5. They don't want you to get the 5. They don't want you to. They want you to be average. So no matter how good you are, they're going to grade you average. So give them what they expect. It sounds awful. It's an awful feeling if you're a perfectionist, but it's something that you really need to learn is that some work just needs to be done. Nothing needs to be perfect. Um, and I think we get caught up in that as artists and creatives as well. So, bringing it back to the focus of this channel, which is mostly going to be writing, reading, and creative pursuits, your art doesn't have to be perfect. Imperfections make art unique and beautiful. So even in your writing, it won't be perfect and it shouldn't be perfect, especially a first draft. So just get it done. And there are a lot of videos offering advice on how to get writing done faster, and that is something I'm working on as well. But to just get that draft done, move on to the next draft of that same project, especially if you're a novelist or writing longer form, writing pieces in longer form, then it's important to work faster. And that means drafting faster. A novel or a short story will have multiple drafts. And if you can finish a draft and get through a draft, it really will improve your work. So, practice allowing yourself to be imperfect and to let especially a rough draft be sea level. It can be bad, and that's okay. Tip, I think that was tip number 3. Tip number 4 is ask yourself, what's the simplest step I can take right now to get me towards my goal? What is the easiest thing I can do right now to get me over this hump of procrastination? So if it's writing, then the first thing you can do is write a sentence. If it's, doing your taxes, well, the first thing you can do is open your bank account or whatever it is. But just facing that one first step. And then once you've done that, okay, what's one simple thing I can do right now? And if you are overwhelmed by a list of things you feel you need to do, pick an easy task. Pick an easy task and get it done. And then tell yourself, good job. I did that thing. It is important to say good job to yourself, as silly as it seems, because you need to train your brain that not procrastinating is the right thing. Currently, as a procrastinator, your brain is getting some sort of reward for procrastination, whether it's the instant reward, instant satisfaction of a game on your phone or doom scrolling or whatever, um, or or whatever it is, the chance of getting out of the task. There are rewards for procrastinating. So, in order to combat that, you need to reward yourself for not procrastinating. And that reward can simply be acknowledging and feeling good that you did the thing that you said you were going to do, acknowledging that you took that first step. That is a huge self reward or internal reward that you can give yourself. You need to make sure you take time to do that. Tip number 5, like I said in the beginning, the most important thing that you need to understand here is that this is a habit and we're breaking a habit, and that's hard. It's really hard. So, more important than any one of these tips is that I want you to give yourself grace. You will have good days when you don't procrastinate, when you use these tips and you feel really great, and then you'll have a day where you fall apart, maybe more than a day, and you'll completely fall off. And the research, again, going back to behavioral research, it shows that it takes multiple attempts to break a habit. So you'll break the habit for a little while, and then you'll be back to procrastinating. And eventually you'll realize, ah, oh, crap, I'm back in this hole. And the best thing you can do is just start over. Just start over. What were those tips again? Do one of them. Do something. Do something to break that procrastination habit again. And over and over and over again, you'll keep trying and you'll keep getting better at it. You really will. Your stretches of not procrastinating will get longer, and your stretches of procrastinating will get shorter. And eventually, you'll get over this habit. Mostly, hopefully. So, giving yourself grace, giving yourself the compassion to forgive yourself when you do make mistakes, understanding that you will make mistakes. But again, using that mindfulness to see what triggered that. Did you get stressed by money? Did you not sleep enough because of something, and then you're tired and you're procrastinating because you don't have the energy to do the things to overcome the humps that are in the way? Looking at what causes you to procrastinate or what causes you to revert to procrastination can really help you. So, again, keeping that journal by your side, keeping your awareness with you, and paying attention to yourself and being that observer. It's a strange situation being a human being because are both the actor and the observer of our own actions. And that's a strange thing. Product of consciousness, I guess. Nobody really knows what that is, that duality of the human condition. and do other creatures have it? Those are questions for another day. For today, I hope that these tips help you. Please do like and subscribe. I've got more content coming up.